Hello and thank you for joining me today on The Political Conversationalist. My name is Ben Phipps, and in case the bust of Marcus Aurelius at the beginning of the video didn't give it away, we're dealing with another political philosophical topic. And today we're talking about political polarity. And this is a phrase used by a lot of people, and you can think of it like a magnet. You have a magnet, you have a north pole, and you have a south pole, and they repel each other constantly. You can't put a north to north. You can put a north and a south together, but not a north to north. And that kind of dichotomy between this is strictly north and this is strictly south is what we mean by political polarity, because this is strictly Democrat and this is strictly Republican. It kind of corresponds with north and south. Anyway, political polarity or strict partisanship or whatever you want to call it has definitely been around for a long time. The parties in government, the Democrats, the Republicans, even all the way back to the Whigs and the Tories and all those things, have long undermined and undercut and tried very hard to fight each other. And they've been doing it for a long time, but it's actually been getting a lot worse. And there are numerous reasons that scholars have put forth as to why this is. But we think of a couple here. Lack of a common enemy. During the Cold War, during World War I, World War II, the government tended to work together because we had something to fight against. You know, we had Russia because the Red Menace was spreading across the world and spreading communism. Even though Democrats and Republicans were different and still are different, they came together when it came time to stand against communism and stand against the Soviet Union. We also have identity group politics, where that's when you conform to a certain set of norms so that you fit in the group. We also have more strict partisan boundaries than we ever had before. People like John McCain, Republican, did not support Donald Trump. A lot of people called him, I believe the term they use is rhino now. But a lot of people called him a fake Republican. He's not really a Republican. He's a Democrat in disguise and all that stuff. So we've imposed very strict guidelines for what's a Republican and what's a Democrat, and we pretty much force all of our candidates to inhabit one of those sections without any room for their own ideals. Gerrymandering. If you don't know what gerrymandering is, I suggest you look a couple articles on it up. But gerrymandering is the redrawing of districts within a state normally, and it is up to the state legislature to redraw the districts. And you have these very odd-shaped districts that are shaped so oddly because they try to group a lot of Republicans together or a lot of Democrats together so that they definitely will win that area. It's definitely not fair, and I believe it definitely should end. That's also strengthened the divide between Republicans and Democrats. And then unfounded, agendized journalism. And I believe I linked an article down below, and I suggest you read that article. It's linked below. It's very important. Now, I've heard verbally and on social media that the other side is evil. In fact, for those of you who don't know, I drive a forklift for a living at Eaton Corporation. There was a truck driver who I was loading his truck for him, and he said, "Man, these liberals are just so evil." I said, "A lot of them just, they have their own beliefs, or maybe they're ignorant of what you think." "Nah, they're just evil." Like, people are very convinced that being different means that you're being evil. And I think that's something we definitely need to end, because it's very easy to dislike people we disagree with. And on the same hand, it's very easy to like people we agree with. Men at a football game, for example, may not have anything else in common, but if they're all wearing the same team's jersey, they sit on the same side, they cheer at the same times, they boo at the same times. There's a sense of camaraderie and belonging to that group because you agree on one thing: that team is the better team. But the people on the other side, however, who are rooting for the opposite team, it's very easy to dislike those people. Those people are stupid, those people are crazy, those people are mean, they don't love the game of football like I love the game of football, and all kinds of things. Now, it's bad individually speaking. It's bad for me to discount people because they disagree with me. It's bad for people to discount me, which has happened quite a lot, who disagree with me. But why is it bad on a bigger scale? Well, the first reason is inaction. When you have Democrats and Republicans, we normally end up with a close to 50-50 split in Congress and Senate. Not always exactly 50-50, but pretty close. And when you have the very two opposite sides of that magnet, the North Pole and the South Pole, trying to come together, and they're fighting each other on everything, and they have to be completely opposite, and they can't give any credence to the other side, and they can't be nice to each other, really. It leads to a lot of arguing and a lot of stalemates in Congress and Senate, which means that we have legislation that takes a very long time to go from being a proposed bill to being a law. Not only that, big issues just go completely untalked about because we're too busy arguing over small bank loaning things or whatever topic has been brought up. They take opposite sides of it just because they're on opposite sides of the aisle. Also, bad representation. I've talked to a lot of people about politics, and I really like talking to people about politics who don't vote very much, who don't know very much about politics, and I ask them where they stand on the issues. And there are numerous quizzes you can go online and say, who should I vote for based on my thoughts on this, that, and the third, It'll ask you questions on abortion and gun control. There was actually a really good one on, I can't remember the website now, but during the 2016 election, it told me to vote for either Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz, and I actually did end up voting for Marco Rubio in the primary, or Ted Cruz rather in the primary. So very interesting to do one of those quizzes yourself, but that's why I like to ask people who don't vote these questions. And what I've learned is that a lot of people have viewpoints from both sides. When you talk to people about corporations, and the example that I normally use is Amazon pays less business tax than Walmart. Although Amazon is the biggest company in the world and the only company that has ever reached $1 trillion market capital. I believe it's market capital, might be net worth. The biggest company in the world, it pays less taxes than Walmart, which is obviously not anywhere near as big. It's still a massive company, but not near as big as Amazon. And most people agree that that's unfair. And that would be a democratic standpoint. We need to push corporations to pay taxes fairly. We need to impose even more taxes maybe on corporations. That's something we can definitely get behind as a country, and a lot of people stand for that, but Republicans are not going to stand for that. Yet those same people who think we should tax Amazon fairly, and therefore they should pay more taxes than Walmart, are also the same people who think, well, maybe we should have stuck with the vote we had on gay marriage, or maybe we shouldn't have so many abortions. Maybe it should only be in cases of rape. Anyway, the individual points don't really matter. What I'm trying to point out to you is that the average person will have some viewpoints that are Democratic and some viewpoints that are Republican. I have not talked to anyone in the world, actually, even myself. I haven't talked to anyone who actually falls wholly within either category of people. If they just believe everything down the line that Democrats believe, or everything down the line that Republicans believe, I've never talked to one of those people. And so when you have the two strict poles, north and south, and they can't meet in the middle, they can't work together, you have a lot of people who are in the middle. And those people in the middle are not being fairly represented by their representative government. Third, it kills third parties. Now, of course, I actually pointed a little bit of this out in the last video, I believe, on the Koch brothers. Libertarians are out there. Libertarians are not that's not a political party I ascribe to at all, or give much credence to be honest. But the point I'm making with libertarians is that they're dying. And libertarians are dying out because you have two very powerful players. You have Democrats and Republicans, and those political parties are massive. And they definitely do a good job of monopolizing the ballots, monopolizing the TV time, monopolizing the signs on the street. They have a lot of money and a lot of power and a lot of momentum behind them. And because you have either side, and because we have identity group politics which says that you must be one of either side, third parties get hurt as a result, because people who are ascribing to a third party, we view them as, one, throwing your vote away, and two, yellow-bellied cowards who are just afraid of believing either way. I've heard that actually before. So it hurts third parties to have two very opposite, very strong and momentous political parties. And fourthly, it lessens voter turnout. And I think it lessens voter turnout mainly because of the bad representation. And for instance, I've talked to people, including my wife, who have strong views on some things. Like me and my wife are both very against abortion. But again, me and my wife think Amazon should pay more taxes on their money that they have as opposed to Walmart. They should definitely pay more taxes. And those are views that fall in the middle. And so a lot of people, not me and my wife because we vote, but a lot of people will kind of sit back and think, well, I agree with them on this and I agree with them on this, and because they're opposites and I'm somewhere in the middle, I think I'll just stay home because I can't decide which one to vote for. And I think that happens a lot more than people realize. We always think of people who don't vote as lazy, but if you don't see any candidate that could truly represent what you believe in, why would you vote? So there are numerous solutions people have pointed out, but I think the first one we need is a different mentality and more maturity. We need to stop viewing people with different ideologies as idiotic, as ignorant, as evil. And I think the important thing to look at here is that we need to realize that people believe what they believe for reasons that to them are logical. Now, it may not be logical to me, but it's logical to them. And because they're a logical, rational human being, we can have a conversation on what they believe and why they believe it, and what I believe and why I believe it. And we can compare our reasons, and we can argue, and we can debate, and we can get down to the truth of the matter. But if I say, you're stupid for believing this, or they say, I'm stupid for believing that, we're not going to have a good discourse, and we're just pushing each other further apart. Something else that I'd like to point out is that, specifically from the Republican side of things, I have seen a lot of Republicans say Democrats are trying to kill the country. They're trying to ruin the country, trying to hurt the country, trying to undermine the country. And I don't believe that. I believe Democrats, in a lot of their economic policies, are misled. But I don't believe they're trying to hurt the country or hurt the economy. In fact, I would say both political parties are trying to help the country in very different ways, because people have different experiences, people have different reasonings, and people have gone through different things, so they view the same things through different lenses and have different ideas and different ideologies and different opinions. And Democrats are trying to help in their way, Republicans are trying to help in their way. But calling the other side evil because they disagree with me, or that assuming that they're trying to do harm because they're trying to take a course of action I don't agree in, is not correct either. People aren't trying to hurt the government just because they're Democrats or Republicans. They just have very different ideas of what's going to help. Now, there are other smaller steps we could take. Top 2 elections, something I haven't heard of until I researched it. It was pretty interesting. Top 2 elections, whereas instead of having a Republican primary or a Democratic primary, you would have everyone running for that office, and then whichever 2 got the most votes would have a runoff race basically in the general election that November. And so you could even have 2 Republicans running against each other or 2 Democrats running against each other. And that gives you a little more choices between, well, this person is going to follow the party exactly. Well, don't vote for that person. Vote for the person who has some of your ideas and some not. So it can give you a little more freedom in how you vote and who you vote for. A lot of people are calling for easier voter registration, or mainly more expedient voter registration. And then, of course, and I'm probably going to say this every video until I stop making videos, campaign finance reform. So we know who's getting money from where, why they're getting money, and what they're doing with that money. But long story short, political polarity hurts individuals. It hurts the discourse we can afford under free speech. And it hurts the government. And by hurting the government, hurts the entire citizenry of the United States. So what I encourage you to do is to avoid a different frame of mind. Or, to employ a different frame of mind. Just because people disagree with you doesn't mean they hate you. And just because people disagree with you doesn't mean they're trying to cause harm. Find out why they think what they think. And then explain why you think what you think. And if you have trouble explaining why you think what you think, maybe what you think isn't what you should think. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video today, and if you did, and if you learned a little bit, leave a comment, like, subscribe, whatever you want to do. If you have a specific question, you can follow the link in my Facebook page, or to my Facebook page from the description, and you can email me from there if you have a question you want to keep private or a question that needs a snappy response, and I'll be right on top of that. Thanks for watching.